1982, a group of cases among gay men in Southern California suggested that the cause of the immune deficiency was sexual between men, and the syndrome was initially called gay-related immune deficiency, or GRID. It was until January 1983 that the AIDS Institute first reported cases among females. And look at this. It started in 1982 with male-to-male sex. And in 1983, according, to the AIDS Institute, that's when it began to spread among women. And guess why? Because bisexuals also have sexual relationships with women. So that the AIDS that's in January 1983. The AIDS Institute first reported the cases among female who contracted the disease through male partners who had the disease, suggesting it could be passed on via heterosexual sex. Thus, the initial grid was modified to include the new reported group of infected women, and it became AIDS. Surprisingly, AIDS continues to increase rampantly among the gay community, but on the other hand, it is significantly diminishing among heterosexual and drug addicts. You see? And this is not, I'm not making this up. This is from the AIDS Institute. So it is decreasing among women, heterosexuals, and drug addicts, but it is increasing rampantly among males. So now they said that the good news is that they found new medication. You see? Now they say that, technology and new pills, new medication, they found a cure or at least something and to treat AIDS. And it is so efficient that it makes it undetectable and it prevents spreading it. Professor Philip Hammock led a study and determined that there is an extremely low rate of PrEP or medication use, while not surprising given barriers to access in various parts of the country, is disappointing, said Hammock. In other words, it is so hard to get that in some places they don't even have it. Research also found that most sexually active gay and bisexual, and this is from the AIDS Institute. Research also found that the most sexually active gay and bisexual men aged 18 and 25 are not tested for HIV annually, as recommended by the CDC. So the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention are saying that men are not being tested and that 25% of young men have never been tested. So, they're exposed to HIV. And I worry especially about younger men who didn't grow up with the concerns of HIV that men of older generations did, like my generation. It was something new and it was terrible. Nowadays, it seems like people are, said Hammock, the doctor said this, that the low rate of HIV testing probably reflects a degree of complacency and cultural amnesia about AIDS. So nowadays, young people have amnesia and they don't think they're going to get it. And the truth is that they don't even know they have it, but they do. So only 4% of sexual active gay and bisexual men in the United States use Truvada. Truvada is a medication, a highly effective medication used to prevent the transmission of HIV, according to the results of the first of its kind study. But guess what? What they don't tell you is that Truvada, you know how much it costs? It costs $100 a pill, an average of almost around $5,000 a month. Do you have that money? Not only that, what they don't tell you is that it destroys your liver and your kidneys. So you're going to die of liver illness and of kidneys disease. So what's the point? Just be careful. I think the best thing to do is just to be celibate, or if you know your life is worth it. So according to the CDC, Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, saving lives and protecting people and HIV public health partners, gay and bisexual men who have sex with men are the population most affected by HIV in the United States. It clearly states, all of those organizations state that bisexual men who have sex with men are the population most affected by HIV in the United States. And in 2017, adult and adolescent gay and bisexual men made up 70%, or 20,000 of the 38,793 new HIV diagnoses in the United States and dependent areas. Approximately 492,000 sexually active gay and bisexual men are at high risk of HIV. Of 38,739 new HIV diagnoses in the United States and dependent areas in 2017, 70% were among adult and adolescent gay and bisexual men. So a much higher proportion of gay and bisexual men have HIV compared to any other group in the United States. Therefore, gay and bisexual men who have sex with men have an increased chance of having an HIV positive partner. So your partner, it's so dangerous because it states here that 1 in 6 gay and bisexual men with HIV are unaware they have it. Therefore, they may transmit the infection to others without knowing it. And most gay and bisexual men get HIV from having anal sex. Anal sex is the riskiest type of sex among everything else. This is not my invention, okay? This is according to the CDC and these organizations. So, receptive anal sex is 13 times as risky for getting HIV as insertive anal sex. Gay and bisexual men are also at increased risk for other sexually transmitted diseases, STDs, like syphilis, gonorrhea, and chlamydia. Having another STD can greatly increase the chance of getting or transmitting HIV. So, other factors such as limited quality care, lower income, all those are contributors for this. But the findings show that HIV infection rates remain strikingly high among gay and bisexual men, says Kevin Fenton, Doctor, PhD, Director of the CDC Center for HIV/AIDS, viral hepatitis. And the number of new HIV infections each year is increasing among men who have sex with men, MSM, while remaining stable or decreasing in other groups. Fenton said in a statement, currently, men who have sex with men, or MSM, account for nearly half of the more than 1 million people living with HIV in the United States. 1 in 5 gay bisexual men have HIV. Nearly half don't know. 63% of the HIV positive men aged 18 to 29 were unaware of their infection. So we see that men who have sex with men, gay or bisexual, are the most severely affected population. MSM account for just a small fraction, 2% of a total of US population, yet nearly 2/3 of all new infections occurred within this group in 2009. And 1/2 of all people living with HIV in 2008 were males who have sex with males. So don't believe those who tell you that if your partner tested negative for HIV, then you will not contract the HIV. That is a myth. That is not true. The truth is that if your gay lover tested negative for HIV, you can still get infected with AIDS or HIV. Some people take longer than others to generate an antibody response to HIV. Even though fourth and fifth generation HIV tests detect 90% of infections 4 weeks after exposure, to be completely sure, a negative result should be confirmed with a second test 3 months after the HIV exposure. In that time, your partner must have also avoided any risky sexual activity. Viral load testing may also be used in conjunction with HIV tests. This was by Dr. Fuchs. So there's another myth that people say that a person who receives an antiretroviral treatment like Truvada or Truva will not spread the virus. This statement is not true. Treatment is not completely fail-safe. Truvada is a combination medication that is used to prevent people at high risk from contracting HIV. When used consistently, no drug is currently 100% effective at preventing the spread of HIV. Nowadays, they say that AIDS is no longer deadly because they recently found a pill that is so good that it makes the illness undetectable. But you have to take one every day. If not, you will get worse. You see? Do you know how much the pill costs? I already told you, $100, $5,000, around $5,000 a month. If you have that money, go ahead. But if you don't, then just avoid having sex with another man. Now, there's another myth that if you both have HIV, then what's the problem? Both of you have HIV, so you might as well choose that partner and have all the sex you want. Well, that's a wrong statement, because there are different strains of HIV, and your partner may have a different strain than you. This makes treatment a lot more difficult, especially if you become infected with a more virulent strain that it is resistant to HIV medications. Some believe that if both partners have AIDS, then there's no problem because both are already infected. Therefore, nothing can be transmitted because both have it. What they don't know is that even if both have AIDS, the different infections each have will be additionally passed to the partner, causing even more complications. AIDS different infections do not end when both partners have AIDS. Rather, each different infection can be transmitted additionally to each partner suffering AIDS. And some people say, well, I cannot acquire AIDS if I have oral sex. Oral sex. Not true. Transmission of HIV occurs when there is an exchange of bodily fluids such as semen, blood, or pre-ejaculatory fluids. And this is possible during oral sex when there are open wounds including cuts or ulcer on the mouth. It is best to avoid oral sex if you have any cuts, sores, or abrasions, or if you have a sexually transmitted infection. You never know when you have a little cut in your mouth, because even if you have like a bloody, your gums are bloody, you never know. It's so dangerous. I don't believe in that. So male-to-male sexual contact continues to be the group that is most affected by HIV. Want to know the truth? About 90% of new HIV infections result from sexual activity man to man, and that is why it is important to know your chances of getting HIV from different activities. The fact is that men-to-men sex is at high risk, and through receptive anal sex and bottoming. What is so sad is that, going back to Freddie, what is so sad that Freddie liked women and dated beautiful girls like Mary. He dated Mary for 5 years and had plans to get married with her. And right after he broke up with Mary and began dating men, he contracted the HIV. By doing the math, according to reports of doctors, it takes 10 years for AIDS to appear. And he broke up with Mary when he was 29. And he showed the signs of HIV at 40, around 10 or 11 years after he broke up with Mary. But like many humans, he wanted to explore the gay ambient, to explore the gay scene.
Mom, you've been saying the same thing
This
over
was
and over again.
His death sentence. If he knew he was going to die due to this tendency, I don't think he would have done it. Don't you think he would have chosen to have a beautiful family with Mary, who he loved, who he truly loved? And if he would have known he was going to die due to other extra tendencies, he wanted to have fun. He wanted to explore. And many might think, well, he could have just have one lover and one husband. In answer to that, yes. But first, like I said before, he had to go through a lot of sexual encounters to find the one. Meanwhile, he contracted AIDS. The same thing happened to George Michael. He went through a lot of sexual male encounters until he found the love of his life, Anselmo Filipa. And then the love of his life died of AIDS. Isn't that a red flag? How can you mothers encourage your children to be gay when you know that that is a form of suicide? It is exposing a loved one to risk his life, if not to die. Nowadays, people say that AIDS is no longer fatal, given that there is new medication to treat. But I already told you about this alleged medication. What they don't tell you, yeah, it's true. It's very expensive. Please don't be deceived by safe sex advertisement. You're still at risk. Don't be deceived that you need to fall in love with the same sex to be happy. That is a lie. I would rather live to see my children and my family than to die due to an unnecessary cause. If you have a tendency to like your same sex, avoid it. If you're bisexual, choose a girl. Just like a married man can avoid having sex with another woman that is not his wife, also you. If you're bisexual, you're blessed because you can choose the safe sex. Or a person who's an alcoholic also, they have to avoid alcohol. Or a drug addict, they can avoid drugs and so on. Specifically, if you're bisexual, you have a choice. Avoid falling in love with a man, and you can do it. Many people say, no, falling in love just comes. No, you can avoid it. That is why married men, they can fall in love with a lover, of course, but they can avoid it too. It's a matter of choice. So guess what? Freddie was bisexual, and due to the fact that he never imagined that he would die of a gay-related disease, it was easy for him to explore and enjoy the same sex, sexual intimacy. But now you know, he had an excuse. At that time, people didn't even know about that disease. But nowadays, there's no excuse. You know what it entails. It's a deadly disease. So it's so ironic. Like I said, Freddie had to go through a lot of gay lovers in order to find his true love, James Hutton, whom he dated for only 1 year. And after he suspected he had AIDS. And Mary believed Freddie settled down because he suspected that he had acquired, many believed that Freddie settled down because he suspected he had acquired the illness and wanted to settle down. And so before you find your alleged true love, first, you will have to go through several sexual encounters with different men if you are a homosexual, and if not many men. And by that time, you or your lover will have been exposed to HIV. That is the sad truth. In my opinion, that's a red flag to engage in same-sex sexual encounters. Again, Rock Hudson died of AIDS, then Freddie dies of AIDS, and George Michael's lover, Anselmo dies of AIDS. Anselmo, George Michael, and guess what? Jim Hutton died of AIDS also. I think in the year, I don't remember what year, but he died of AIDS also, Freddie's lover. And it was undetermined. There was a question if George Michael also died of AIDS, and it was still undetermined if the real cause of his death was AIDS or HIV virus, because he died unexpectedly at 53, and he had several episodes of pneumonia, which is also an underlying cause of AIDS, and it could have been related with AIDS. So he suffered from pneumonia, but at the end, the doctor didn't have his final autopsy, so it was undetermined if the underlying cause of his death was AIDS. So George Michael died on Christmas Day, 2016. He died unexpectedly at the age of only 53. By the way, he was also one of my favorite singers, like I said. So George Michael was another reason why I made this documentary. And parallel to Freddie, George Michael found his true love, but his lover died of AIDS, and Freddie also found his true love, and he died of AIDS, and even if it isn't for you, the fact is that male to male sexual contact continues to be the group that is most affected by HIV. That's a red flag. I find it odd that before these celebrities found their true love, those true lovers had contracted AIDS, so they weren't even able to enjoy that marriage. And don't believe me. Do your own research about this, but don't ask gay people. Go to the CDC, to find CDC is the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, and the AIDS Institute. Those are reliable organizations and centers that you can, do your research. And I did a lot of research before I did this video, and I'm not lying. Again, the fact is that AIDS was initially contracted among the gay community, and all I can say is, if you guys like both sexes, don't kill yourself by choosing, the sex that is at higher risk. Choose the safer side, girls. And guys, if you are homosexual, I've seen people that are homosexuals or bisexuals that I know that chose to marry and have children, and they lived happily ever after. Just they control themselves as like anything else, and they lived happily ever after. And for you guys that only like boys, choose a different love, maybe music, work, and ask a higher power to help you and your loved ones and friends and groups to help you overcome this addiction. And sometimes even I've seen gay, homosexuals that at the end they also like women a little bit. Maybe try to like a girl, or just be celibate. And the body cannot have everything that the body wants, because if you give your body everything that it wants, then, well, maybe your body will want a lot of food, maybe alcohol or drugs or sex. Everything in life that is good requires a sacrifice. So stop and think. When I see the lives of these gay celebrities, I realize that Freddie could have had a beautiful life and a wife if he would have been wise with Mary Austin. And by the way, I forgot to tell you that Mary Austin revealed in an interview that Freddie confessed to her that he had made a great mistake in choosing a man, in choosing the lifestyle, the gay style, that he loved her, that she was the love of his life. He even said that he considered her to be his common law wife. And guess what? He later he made a will and he left the mansion, his beautiful mansion. Guess to who? To Jim or to Mary? He left it to Mary because you know what he said at the end? That at the end, she would have been his wife. You see, he repented. At the end, so don't believe those who say that if you only have one partner who is gay, that that partner has not been with other partners. That is not true. And why encourage gay relationships? It's like encouraging suicide. Encourage life. Encourage a normal relationship so that you may not be exposed as you would in a man-to-man sexual relationship. Look at these celebrities as examples. When they found the perfect lover, the only man of their lives, they were struck with tragedy and untimely death due to AIDS. Why? Because before finding that soul lover, first they had to go through a lot of lovers to find the true love and vice versa. And when they found the true love, they had already acquired AIDS. Hello. If you're bisexual, you are really blessed because you have the opportunity to choose a girl, not a gay, because, you know, anal sex is still the number one cause of AIDS. It is the truth. And if you don't believe me, you do the research to find out that I'm saying the truth. God bless you.